So why is it a bad idea to have one big code file? Well, if you break up your code into individual files and then you make a little change in one of these files, when you go to rebuild your program, it doesn't have to go through all of these other files and rebuild them. It only has to rebuild that one file. So it's a lot faster to build your project. Another issue you'll have if you have one big code file is if you have multiple developers who are working on this one file, and then they're all changing things on there, then the problem is you're just going to have some conflicts of code and it would just be an absolute nightmare. But if you break it up into different sections, like let's say this is the physics code and this is the sound code, now you can have the sound developers working on the sound code and the physics developers working on the physics code, and they don't have to destroy each other's code. Also, it's really good to break up your code like this into individual sections. It's called a separations of concerns. So this code here only cares about physics, this code here only cares about sound, and maybe this code here only cares about movement. And so if your character's not moving properly, you don't have to go to the sound code or the physics code. You can go straight to the movement code and try and fix the problem. And another reason is it's a lot easier to find exactly what you're looking for when they're in these separate sections like physics and sound than if you had one massive code base and you're trying to figure out where's the movement code in that whole thing. That would be a nightmare. Another reason is it can be easier for other developers to use your code. In C++, you have files called header files and you have files called C++ files. And in the header files, you can have sort of like the menu items or the code that another developer could use, but the C++ files are more like the recipes of how it actually works under the hood. So if you could just look at the menu items, for example, maybe you need a piece of code for how to spawn a player in, but you don't actually need to know all the details about how a player is actually spawned. You just want to be able to use it. So you go to the header file and you can read about how to use this piece of code without looking at all the details of how it actually works. So now that you have all of these separate files, how do you actually stitch them together so that we can actually create one executable program? And that's going to be the topic for the next video. If you want to learn some more coding concepts, I stream 10 hours a day, 7 days a week on Twitch at Team Bash, and I'd love to see you there. All right, bye-bye.